welcome to In Their Own League. I am Joan Amon, editor-in-chief, and give us a like and subscribe today. It's Animated April, one of my favorite times of year. And we are talking today with Irish artist Adrienne Dowling, who is an artist, a filmmaker, Instagram, just Instagram following. She has her online shop. We'll give you all the links below. Adrienne, thank you so much for being with us. I'm so excited. So
Thank
let's
you for
jump
having
right into
me.
it. Let's jump right into it. You are a fan of stop motion and drawn animation. Do you have a preference, and what advantages do you see in each?
Well, I have to say I'm a stop motion girly. It's like, yeah, probably my first love. Live action puppets as well, and then stop motion. I think there's the two of them. Yeah, 2D animation. I think I kind of wish there was more of it these days, obviously, but it is still hanging in there, so it's always nice to see. I think the stop motion, I think it's just there's something kind of like I think it's nostalgic always, and it's like it's your toys coming to life. So it's because everything that you're seeing is real, like it exists in a physical space, and you're just getting to kind of experience that. I think there's like a little magic in it that nothing else quite has. So yeah, I'm always gonna kind of lean to stop motion. I like to see it. Again, not a lot of it. I wish there was more, but it's still hanging in there. It's not dead yet. I think there's
Yeah.
also an appreciation for traditional media and analog techniques and stuff is always kind of like something new and shiny will come along, whether it's like 3D or AI or whatever. But you know, there's a charm to these things that's kind of evergreen, I think. I don't think it'll ever be replaced. So yeah. But yeah, stop motion.
Yeah, I totally agree. Excuse me. I dabbled in stop motion a little bit in college too. I adore it. I love Aardman Studios for that reason because they're keeping it
Yes.
alive, and they were just nominated for an Oscar here in America this year. So yay for them. Mm. Big fan of Wallace and Gromit from way back. I adore them, but it's I believe it's kind of the fascination for me is that there's something tangible.
Yes.
You know you can reach out and touch it if you could reach through the screen. There are actually little figures that you could actually play with yourself, and I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think there's something nostalgic about that. Like,
Yeah.
it's world building, like when you were a kid and you were setting up your action figures or whatever to play. There's something tangible and wonderful about that I don't think AI could ever replace. So I agree with you on
Right.
that. It's
Yeah,
a
I think
lovely thing. Like painstaking, agonizing
for
when
sure. For sure.
but but lovely when it's set in motion, it's amazing. But you're
Yeah.
also a fan of Sleeping Beauty, which is hand done, and obviously Fantastic Mr. Fox. You mentioned also you love, which yes, oh my goodness. Uh,
Mhm.
what draws you to each? What is the attraction to you from each for each one of them?
Well, with Sleeping Beauty, I think the color palettes are just like so gorgeous. It's Ivan Durrell's basically stamp all over the whole thing is just mesmerizing. He like the way he uses say like the neon green in with all of the dragon stuff. It's so like jumps off the screen, and then the red of the Prince Philip's cape and hat and stuff. So the use of color, and then but also the layering, and like back then Disney was still using their like glass multiplane kind of techniques, and you have this sense of depth, which again kind of feels like it's real, it's in front of you. There is something in a physical space rather than just like one layer, like composited. There's a yeah, the sense of space and depth in it, I think, is really impressive with the multiplane. So I love that. Apart from just being like an awesome film, so it's just sumptuous. It's so beautiful. And then I would say with Fantastic Mr. Fox, I think um, it's so textured, and I think it really plays to the strength of stop motion in a way that kind of I kind of feel like we're so good at everything, and not personally, but like as a human technology evolving everything, like there's ways to do everything so slickly and so well now, and there's an ability for stuff to be very, very polished that wasn't there before. So like when they started making stop motion films, like right up until I think Corpse Bride, I think was the first film that was made with live action, live view they call it, like so when you're shooting stop motion use a computer setup so that you can see through the camera and you can
Mhm.
compare what you've previously shot to how the current frame will look if you choose to shoot it as it is. Whereas before they were kind of shooting blind basically. So you kind of didn't really know what you were getting until you saw the playback. So there was it was a little more rough, but like since digital kind of tools have been able to enhance that analog technique, it's kind of really gotten very, very slick. So you can have some super like there's now people going, is it stop motion? I thought it was CGI. Or you're like, I don't think you want people to be guessing if it's CGI or stop motion. So
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, Mr. Fox. I think they really did a great job of kind of maintaining the kind of tactile roughness and like bristliness of it. Like even though the animators on it are top tier and like the animation is like so gorgeous and skilled, but it's like knowing which frame to take out or where to like bristle the fur and to kind of keep that kind of organic energy and just the real essence of the medium, I think, comes through in that one the best.
And I think he continued that also with Isle of Dogs because all that,
Yeah.
like you say, all the fur. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Just like
I heard Wes Anderson intentionally was sort of asking the animators to kind of like, oh, make it because the animators are always trying to get it so perfect. And he's like, a little rougher, take out a frame. And they're like, oh, but
yeah,
it was really intentional, I think.
he
He was
is
spot on.
amazing. Anderson is amazing. If you ever get to Chicago at the Art Institute, he has his favorite part of the Art Institute is this whole display of miniature scenes. They're all miniatures, and he absolutely adores it. I guess that was the inspiration from doing the stop motion. They're all just animated shadow boxes of miniatures in different rooms, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know what it's doing in the museum. So, but yeah, it's this little, hidden away in the Art Institute, and it's absolutely beautiful. And he's said that's one of his favorite places, and it's just stunning. So I could see where the inspiration came from him to even
Yeah.
try stop
Yeah.
animation, because of course he's a filmmaker as well. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic, Mr. Fox. Anything he has created has that, what you say, that beautiful tactile quality.
Yeah.
That it's not realistic, but it's realistic enough that you can suspend disbelief, kind of, that it's broad enough where you can suspend disbelief where, yeah, okay, that's Fox.
Yeah.
He's talking to
In
you.
like
That's okay.
the scene, you know, when they're in the supermarket at the end, and you can tell that they're really kind of rough, rudimentary little versions of all the characters. Like they're all just like little matchstick versions. I love that. Like there's no kind of need for them to be super perfect scale wise, and like nobody needs it to be perfect. It's just you will kind of go with it and just be like, oh yeah, great, it's fun. They're
It's the
miniatures.
charm. That's the charm. And he knew that. And he knew that. That was
Yeah.
the charm. You just buy into that as an audience, like, yeah, this is great. And I love that. I love that. He is such a bold filmmaker. I know he's not for everyone, but I absolutely love his work.
Yes.
Everything he does just blows me away. Anyway, you also mentioned two short films that I'll provide links below for the two short films you mentioned, because they're incredible. And
Oh,
I've never
great.
never seen them before, so thank you for letting me know about those. 3839 Degrees by Kangman Kim and Mound by Alison Chilnick. Holy, amazing, amazing, completely different from each other.
Yes.
Totally different from each other. And yet, actually, I would say this one thing they have in common is the vibe. Like each gives such
Yes.
a mood.
Yeah. Super
Maybe it's the
dreamy.
music and the movement. They give you a distinct vibe, and I was just really mind boggled. It's like I watched them over and over again several times.
Yeah, yeah.
Hitting replay. But yeah, how do they inspire you? They're incredible. I'd like to hear your insight about them.
Well, when you asked me like which like animations had inspired me, I was kind of like trying to pick which ones, and those, especially when I was in film school myself and making like short animations, those were two. And I was like, oh, they're a little older though, because I graduated a while back, so I was like, oh, maybe I should pick something newer. But I was like, no, it's still these two. These two are still they just stick with me for years and years. And I think yeah, I guess they both kind of are a little bit like a fever dream. It's like literally for the 38 to 39 degrees Celsius, it's like this guy going into like a bathhouse that's as it gets hotter and hotter, he slips into this kind of fever dream of his relationship with his father, and they share a birthmark. So he's kind of like scrubbing the mole, and it's just very yeah, very kind of trippy, but very beautiful and very like again it has quite like a tactile sense to it because he's using all these different materials. There's like watercolor paper he's used for the characters in a kind of like a pin puppet form, but they're upright. So instead of it, there's no like you have the flatness of the paper, but they're upright like puppets. And then the water is all very textured, and he used glass in front of the camera to like fog up in camera to create the steam effect. And yeah, so it just has there's just layers and layers of like richness and texture, and then the vibe of it is so atmospheric and so kind of dreamy, and you kind of just kind of go with it. You don't like entirely know, oh, what's happening, what's going on now, and then as it kind of plays through, it kind of comes back to the beginning again, and you're like, okay, that was an experience. And I just love it, and I showed it to a few people, and they were like, what was that, what was the name of that thing that you showed me? That was really good. So I think it's maybe not as well. I'm sure it did very well in the festival circuit and everything, but yeah, it's one that I think is worth revisiting because it's done so well for it's stop motion again, but yeah, with so many layers. And then Alison Schulnick, her work is like, I almost think I shouldn't like her work because it's almost grotesque, and I'm like really averse. Like some people would kind of love that stuff. I'm really averse to kind of grotesque stuff. I'm very like, I like the pretty things. But she does claymation, so she uses a couple of different materials in that one in particular as well, but mostly it's clay, and it's very like this pulsing kind of um unfolding of the material and the narrative in the story. It's just kind of entrancing, and yeah, again, it's like very dreamy, and because it's I almost like it more because it's almost grotesque, but it's just so beautiful, and you like can't stop. It's very engrossing. Like you can't stop watching. You're kind of like, oh, that's kind of creepy. Oh, I can't look away. Oh, it's really beautiful. So kind of watching it like this. But especially my favorite part is the dancing women at the end,
Yes.
with this long hair. And so I kind of I don't know that it's there's necessarily any like clear like I wish there was more of a clear link between those and my work. I think it maybe I could, strive to get more of whatever that is, that magic into my own work. But I think there's elements of it that yeah, that really inspire me. The kind of dreaminess and the texture, the color palettes again in both of them as well. They're both quite different, but Alison Schulnick's one is very like shades of white, but then these like soft colors coming through. I'd love to do something with those kind of colors. Yeah, she's just amazing. I think she did like a music video for the National around the same time, and that one was really big. But I was like, this one, I love this one. Mound is
Yeah.
fantastic.
They both remind me in their own way of David Lynch's work, in that what you were saying, like they're very dreamy.
Mm,
You're not quite sure what the story is in some places. There's a human connection. Certainly with 38 Degrees, you have that human connection
yeah.
between the father and son, and the almost surreal images, like with the spot. And then with Allison's, totally, that borderline like grotesque, like you said, is so Lynchian. It's beautiful, and yet it's like, you're edging
Yeah.
on you're close to the edge of being over the cliff of being grotesque. And it was amazing because I think they really captured a lot of what I would call Lynchian values, like you said, the dreaminess, the color palette, the music
Mm.
in each of it.
Yeah. I
Each
that's
of
I
them.
and the song was original, I believe, for Alison Schulnick's one. It was originally for, and that song still pops into my head all the time. And I'm like, oh, what was that? And then I go, oh, it was from that short animation. That's
That was
really evocative.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
amazing how well it was synchronized and how it lent so much depth to her work. I was
Yeah.
blown away by that. I was like, wow, this is just. When I read that it was originally written, I was like, wow, that was just incredible. And the women, like you say, in Allison's work, that uh, it almost seemed almost folkloric in that they were performing
Yes.
this morning
Yeah.
dance. I
Like Slavic or
loved it.
something.
It was like a ritual, right? I just thought that was amazing. So yeah, I thank you. I thought they were, like I said,
You're
watched them
gonna have
each
to,
several
yeah.
times
I
over.
was like, I'm gonna might be a little left field or unusual, but I thought I would send you those two. I thought, oh, you'll like these.
This is why animation is so fascinating. It can convey so much.
Yeah. I
I think
think
it's
indie
totally
animation.
underappreciated in
Yeah.
in its depth.
Yeah,
And
I think I would love to see more kind of like support. for indie animation. And like I think that's why like Kang Min Kim's film is his student film from Cal Arts. I think it was a first year student film. And I think like you see so many student films go through to these big awards like the Oscars, and BAFTAs, and all of these, like even in outside of student categories, but in the short film category, student films often make it through. And it's just there's this sort of like there's room to be more experimental, a little bit indulgent, or whatever you feel like. There's less pressure to do something commercial. And I think there's a great value in short films and student films, and I think they kind of deserve all the support they can get, because that's where the real kind of creativity and experimentation I think is happening, and some fantastic stuff comes out of it.
I agree. Whenever I attend a festival, I always flock to the short films because I think that in a lot of ways it's more difficult to make a short film than a feature length because you really have to watch your budget. Obviously, I don't have to tell you, you have to watch your budget. You have to plot it all out very carefully. And often I see powerful stories that I would love to see maybe as a feature length, but at the same time, they work so well. Just
Yes,
as
yeah.
short films, that's just you don't need anything additional, just it's just perfect the way it is. So I think it takes a lot of discipline to make a short film, to be able to meet your marks and hit those beats that you have the emotional impact that you want to build to, and resolve. And I love short film for that reason, but to make it an animated short film is an even,
Even
is a
better.
whole new level because you have so many more elements you have to juggle and be aware of. Which brings me to your short film, Fish Witch, which I loved
Oh,
and
thank
I
you.
watched several times over too. And we're gonna, like I said, we'll have a link for that one below. But what's your inspiration for that? Because I absolutely loved it, and
Oh, thank you.
it made me do a deep dive into myth and folklore because it's some years, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I looked up Kelpies. I'm like, wait a minute, that reminds me of something. Were Kelpies part of the influence of your story?
So I definitely wanted a mythological element to it. And like kelpies are like the seaweedy kind of horsey kind of ones. And then there's the merman kind of characters, which are the merrows, and they're in Irish folklore. And then kelpies are in the Scottish folklore. I love both of them. But yeah, so I wanted a mythical folklore kind of element to it. But I I started from a very practical point. I was like, I need to get this film done on budget and on time and in a short schedule. And I want to make the puppets myself. So we're going to have only two characters for the most part, like two characters, one location. So I wanted one character that was a human of humanoid and one that was a creature, just for my own enjoyment as like a puppet maker. So yeah, so I was like, okay, what's going to be a fun creature? So it came from what I had done my dissertation on Del Toro's creature designs, and so I was just like
Oh,
up
okay.
to my eyeballs in Guillermo del Toro's creatures. I was like, oh yeah, actually, it came out just before The Shape of Water as well, so people sometimes think, oh, that must be. I was like, no, he must have we subconsciously connected over this kind of story. So yeah, it was inspired by these kind of creature movies and also the folklore of Ireland. I wanted to have some of that in there, so I went with the Merrows. I love mermaids, but somehow mermen are like even better. But yeah, not human, not I yeah. Character design I find tricky because yeah, I wanted him to look fishy, like quite fishy.
Oh,
So
he looked fishy.
yeah, he was a bit
I was
slimy.
convinced. I was convinced. He's definitely fishy. But Del Toro himself, now that you mention him, of course, is a great supporter and champion of animation, bless his heart, and made Pinocchio a stop motion, which was
Yeah.
stunning. Absolutely blew me away. My goodness. Wow. Just I cannot say enough about Pinocchio. It's
Yeah,
just wow.
he's a hero.
And of course, he's also a great fan of the creatures of creatures of monsters of fish, Shape of Water. So yeah, love him too. Big
Yeah.
influence on me. My family were all huge fans of his. But as far as making short films, my hat's off to you because I know how hard it can be. I mean, especially with animation. And like you said, you have to be so mindful of time
Yeah.
because time is money. And you, like you say, you make very conscious choices of character design, story, location, because all of that has to be created, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're literally building a world. You're
Right.
literally
And with
building a
stop
world from
motion, like
scratch.
you can't just save the files and finish it later. Like some of my friends did 2D films for their graduation who were in my year. And like one of my friends is still tinkering with it. She's like, I'm gonna go back and redo that scene. And she can. But with stop motion, you're always like very aware that well in rented studio setting, like you need to get it done before you leave the studio because you're never going to get it all back set up the way it was. So there's a definite deadline. So yeah, it's very like the scheduling is crucial. But
I think I
I
read somewhere Nick Park for years used his basement for making the Wallace and
right.
Gromit's, and it
Yeah.
was just like commandeered his house basically.
Yeah.
Took it
I think
over.
he actually did move Wallace and Gromit, the first one. He actually did move it, I think, because he started that in my school. Maybe it was in the same room, who knows? This maybe we had the same studio, but his first, so I went to the National Film and Television School in the UK, and that was the birthplace of Wallace and Gromit. So he's like one of their most famous alumnus, but he started Wallace and Gromit there, and it was taking him so long to finish it that Aardman wanted him to come and join them, and they were like, you know what? Why don't you bring it over here? So he must have gotten to a point where he was able to like, okay, finish that scene or something and then move it off to Bristol.
Well, bless him because he's still going too, and it's been years. I mean,
Yeah,
I've been watching him since I was a kid, and I just adore
yeah.
his films
And
from
they're
the
still
beginning.
good. There's
I mean,
just
the
a
latest
charm, I
one,
think. Yeah.
just so charming. I mean, the latest one is just as charming as the first one to me. I just love his work. Uh, when I see the behind the scenes of how they do this, I'm like,
Oh,
my, my hat's off to you. The strength of
it's
will to be able
so
to continue this.
incredible. The behind the I think that's one of the kind of aspects of it though that I love as well. It's still just as magical when you see behind the curtain. Like there's almost even more to get excited about when you see that how like all the little faces and all the little clothes and the sets and you can step into it and yeah it's sort of it doesn't kind of burst the bubble for me. I kind of am just
No.
super
If
engrossed in the whole
anything, it's
process.
like, wow, this is insane. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. That's why I'm kind of like, don't let anybody ever think that you're like, don't do it so well that people think it's CG, because then it's like, oh, you want to maintain that kind of sense of that it is something physical, something in camera that's real. I think that's to be kind of enhanced rather than glossed, like polished over.
And I think that's an important point with traditional animation. Traditional animation, there's a certain charm to watching people storyboard and draw over and over on those pins. They have, the registration
Yeah, the
pins where
pegboards.
they're flipping and they're flipping, right? The old Disney, the original. There was a certain charm to that, like you say, that seeing it behind the camera is just amazing too, because
Yeah,
these guys are sitting on at these boards and they're drawing over and over and over again.
yeah.
They're
You see all
flipping
the
and it's
numbers
coming to
flicking
life.
by on the pages, and you're like, oh, that was all separate sheets. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a charm to that, and there's a stunning achievement to be able to do that
Yeah.
as well. And I think that that's lost somewhat when you do it in computer, because not that it's not amazing, not that it's not stunning and can be very beautiful and attractive in its own, but it's just there's something tactile in human creation,
Yeah.
and having your
Yeah.
hand on that.
So I think like the TV Paint animation that comes out from digital 2D, I think that's the close because they're still using that like frame by frame kind of process, and that kind of holds on to it as well as can be. But yeah, that would be if for digital techniques, that would be my favorite because it's still like hand drawn but digitally. So yeah, TV Paint would be. Well, I'll give TV Paint a pass.
Yeah, but then there's Flow that was just came out this year, and it was done in what was it, Blender, and
Right.
it's just I love this film. It's beautiful, it's adorable, and they rendered their little animals so cute, and but like you said, they're not exactly fuzzy. They're kind of flat, and that became a style for that film. But they made it work for themselves.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Sleeping Beauty when they had. I think of Sleeping Beauty as being done in acrylic paint because it's very flat and graphic, but Cinderella, I think of as being almost in watercolor because it's very pastel and blurry and a dreamy. So I kind of like there's two princesses and two different ways of addressing the princesses, and I think of Flow that way. Flow is very graphic, flat color, but they suggest the fuzziness. They
Yeah.
suggest the creature in 3D. And I loved the film. It was one of my favorite films last year. I almost wish I could see it hand drawn. I know that would be crazy with all that water.
Yeah, I think there's room for like all of them, and then I think it's just the only issue is when kind of the people signing the checks or whatever decide this is what we're gonna do, this is what everybody wants, and then you just get everything saturated in one technique, and then I think it becomes a little boring, and you're not choosing the technique that plays to the strength of the story or the art style that you want to go with. So I think as long as yeah, it's just keep everything, keep all all of the techniques going.
Let's keep animation as diverse as possible because there's room
Yeah,
for everybody.
great.
Certainly,
Maybe not AI.
independent animation is the best, I think, because without that, we wouldn't have flow. We wouldn't have animated shorts. We wouldn't have Del Toro doing his take on Pinocchio, which was certainly not something I don't know. I don't know if Disney, it's definitely Disney, different from Disney's version of Pinocchio. So, but so I think that we're in a very exciting time for animation, and that you could have all these people at the table and doing their own thing, and Latvia being now totally on fire, like saying, "Hey, let's do more animation." That's fantastic as a country. I love that for them. I really do, and they're celebrating their Oscar win. Good for them. And I think that it was just wonderful. I was able to sit in on a Q&A with the creators of Flow, and basically they just did their own thing. It was just like, okay, well, an experiment, and we don't necessarily have a script per se. We're going to see where this goes, and
That.
we're going to have to rewrite programming because we don't know how to do water just yet. We're just going to work with them. But they had that ability to experiment, and I think that's something
Yes.
that's so important in animation, to be an
You don't want to
experimental
be
medium.
animating by committee. It's kind of,
Yeah, I think that's what's so great about stop motion too. There's something experimental about it. You
yeah,
really don't quite know. There's like a little randomness tossed in there.
yeah,
You don't
little extra
quite know where that's
energy.
going to go.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, it's kind of I think it's the closest you can get to magic, really. It's just that like real life version of Toy Story. Yeah, I've worked on some like children's TV and film, and it's just you kind of when you press play at the end to see like how it all runs together, it's just like that's so cool. It doesn't get old. It's just yeah, even before even they take out the rigs and erase the the things that are holding up the back like flying characters, you just kind of you can still see the scene you've been looking at, and it's just like wow, they're alive. That's cool.
It's great to be able to. You're right. It's like real life Toy Story. There's something childlike and inspiring in that. That's comforting and recognizable. But at the same time, there's some randomness. Like, whoa, we don't know what's going to happen next. Let's
Yeah.
find out. Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's very easy if you want to make it quite creepy. It's like the one technique that lends itself so well to like horror or like the Brothers Quay or something. It's like it's yeah, there's a fine line between being super enchanting and childlike and wondrous and joyous, and then like wow, that's really creepy. And yeah,
Aging
you
Tim
can
Burton,
play to
yes.
either string.
Yes, Tim Burton found that out very quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, Even with his short film Vincent, with the little cat. I mean, okay, okay, Tim, where are we going with this? But yeah, and what's wonderful is like you say that it can convey so much emotion and didn't, strong emotions and yeah, creepy, scary, with 38 degrees, nostalgic, grief, even
yeah,
sadness, connection, and then even with Mound, which was so abstract, you get the sense of loss because of that music that it's synced with, and almost like this mourning ritual with those three women, which haunted me. Those three women just still haunt
yeah.
me in my head. Almost like a mourning ritual, or maybe even I was even thinking of the three witches from Macbeth, that is
Yeah,
harbinger of
yeah.
doom. And it's what's fantastic about animation. You can push the boundaries so easily and so simply with very little, like what amount of clay, right?
Yeah.
A handful of clay, and you get this incredible world. Then, and it's up to you what you want to go, where you want to go with that, and that's always going to be fascinating to me. And that's just like film is fascinating to me, but this is like a subset of film that I think is its own world. It's totally on a different level. I've always been a huge fan of animation. Actually, I would say that you know, Disney has gone off on its own plane. Pixar has taken us to another level as far as digital. But, Wes Anderson has, like you say, proven that stop motion's fantastic. Aardman has proven that stop motion's fantastic. And then you have Flow showing us that, hey, you don't need a big studio. You can do this with Blender, which is a free app online, and you can make a gorgeous film. It's cracked wide open, right? We now have such diversity and such beauty, and it's like an open playground. It's everybody come on in and try it. And I hope that that's what people get from animation now is that they can stick a toe in the water and say, "Hey, let's try this. What can we do?"
Yeah, the barrier for entry is really like quite low. And I especially now they're making, I'm pretty sure there's loads of like apps you can use your phone now. Like Dragon Frame for stop motion is like the best software. But you can get a Dragon Frame app on your phone even and use your phone as your camera. And yeah, just there's not a huge kind of need for expense outlay, or you don't have to go to college to learn how to animate. You can, and everything's accessible. So it's kind of, yeah, it's wide open really. And it's not necessarily a case that the more expense or polish you throw at something, the better it gets, because it's not. I think fundamentally in animation, the core is in the kind of emotive ability of it and the connection for pulling in the audience. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah, it's
an open
fantastic. For anyone who wants to tell a story, you can just jump
yeah,
right in and
yeah.
tell a story. Of course, if you're doing stop motion, from my own my own experience, you probably need a spare room in your
Yeah,
house.
yeah. I've done a few films in my house, and like my housemates didn't appreciate the windows being black bag for weeks, but yeah, it made it work. Might run up
And
your
if you
energy
have a
bill on your
cat,
light.
please close the door because you never know
Yeah.
what yes, yes. Ask me how I know. Yes, we've all been there. Yeah, I mean, playing around with it is just so much fun, and I just hope that people are inspired to give it a shot. Every year, we at the league talk about our favorite animated films, and we always are huge fans of just the smaller films, the films that maybe are a little nostalgic, a little rough, a little off the beaten path. That they're the best ones for us. We just love them. And this was a banner year as far as animation I'm concerned. We had The Return of Wallace and Gromit. We had Flow. We had so many beautiful short animated films for the nominations, and I believe one actually won. There was an anime film that actually won an award this year that I saw. That was a international film that was absolutely stunning about PTSD of a father who was recovering PTSD in the Middle East with his daughter who's trying to take care of him, and it was just so moving and so beautiful. So I mean, the storytelling is endless, and
Yeah.
the
I think
ability and depth is endless.
one other thing I think with animation that it does so well is that you can approach kind of topics that might be quite difficult or a bit too like on the nose to do in live action, like with humans. But like if you put it through an animation or with like puppets or another medium, it kind of gives you like a different lens through it to look at it that might make it a little bit easier to process. So I think it has a huge like it's always kind of lumped in as being like, oh, animation is a genre, it's a genre for children. I'm like, it's not a genre, it's a medium. You can do anything with it. Like you can do like drama and comedy, and you can do children's media, you could do adult media, but it's, yeah, ultimately it's like a really useful kind of tool for communicating things that maybe are not as easily communicated in live action. I think it's great that way.
Right, I agree. You can kind of fracture that lens a little bit and make it not as, like you say, on the nose, maybe not as literal, maybe not, and translate it into symbols and metaphor visually, where
Yeah,
it can be so powerful. And that's kind of what I got from the short films you sent me. I mean, they're not. There's no dialogue really.
yeah,
There's
right.
music, but they don't need them. They don't need
Yeah,
dialogue at all. Even your film. If I turned off the sound totally, wouldn't need any sound at all. I would still understand your beautiful film, and it made perfect sense. And that's one
yeah,
of the reasons why I love animation. You can be abstract and then very powerful as well, and have your message come through.
yeah.
And like you say, you don't need a $10,000 budget. You don't need location shots. You can just have very understanding housemates and close the door from
Yeah.
the attack and, have it, and
Yeah.
make this world and make it work. And that's the fantastic part about it, right? I mean, that's why I think that's what everyone is attracted to. I think there's a basic understanding with an audience when they sit down to an animated film that this is coming from something that if they had the time or they had the artistic ability, but they don't even need artistic ability, they could do it too. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't need film school, you don't need to, you don't need a super duper camera, and yet you can create this incredible world.
Yeah.
And it's that universality that's so one of the appealing things.
One of
You
my
know,
tutors at college, I think it was Will Beecher from Aardman, and he had like a gap in productions in Aardman, so he's like, oh, I'll, use the facilities to kind of make something really quick, and it was like maybe a weekend, I think he did, and he just used blue tack, just little. But it's a great little short about like there's a little character who's up in a construction crane and they're having an argument with one spot, but they're just little blobs of blue tack, and it's so like engaging, and you totally buy the characters, you totally get the action. It's perfect. I think like limitations are really helpful. Like limitation sparks innovation. So like you
exactly.
don't want every tool available to you.
Exactly. Constraint can be the most inspiring thing for art, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So, question before we go, I'm burning to ask you, and I needed to ask you this question. In your art, why do you choose felt for your
Ooh.
creations?
Do you know what? I moved to South Korea at one point in 2018, and I could only bring one suitcase. And the most recent, like, I'm a crafty person. I hoard craft everything. I'll keep that. It might be useful. I'll get that. So I had so much art supplies, and then when I was moving to Korea, I could only bring one suitcase. So the most recent item that I had bought was a multi-pack of felt. So I was like, I just bought it. I can't leave it behind. It's such a waste. So I brought it with me. And so then that was the only material I had when I was over there. And so I just started illustrating and crafting with felt. So now, and yeah, it's the tactile thing again, though. It's like I love the texture. So I want to yeah, hold on to that, like layers and textures and that kind of yeah, tactile quality. So it's still holding my interest after quite a while. So I would like to reintroduce some other materials so back in. I think especially after rewatching some of those films that have inspired me so much. I have to thank you for asking me about them, because I almost kind of like revisited what I found inspiring about them and kind of reconnected with some of the things that I have loved from animation. And I'm kind of like now thinking of ways to like reintroduce them with the felt, and maybe, yeah,
Awesome.
thinking
Yay.
of a multiplane. Yeah.
So great. Yeah, I mean, I love how you built up the layers to add depth and shade and almost like a 3D quality to your work. It's just patience.
Uh,
I'm staring at you on your Instagram reels, watching you, fascinated. How do you even think to do all those little tiny layers? Wow. Yeah, I mean, check out Adrienne's art is all I'm going to say, because I'm
Thank
not going to
you.
do any spoilers, but wow. And join, I will definitely, you got to join her Instagram because her reels are amazing. They're off the hook. It's like, wow, what did she just create out of this little bit of
Thank
fabric?
you.
Was that
Fiddly.
all?
Fiddly's great.
Unbelievable. And that came out of constraints. You were constrained by one suitcase.
Exactly. That was it. Yeah, I literally had one material, so I was like, right, we've got to run with it. Still running.
Fantastic. I love it. Yeah, well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
talking with me today. And I can't wait to see what you create next. I'll be watching, and
So
hopefully
much.
our entire audience will too. So thank you so much. You have a good one. Thanks for being